Good morning, readers. Well, it is now March, and today is the freebie day for She Was at Risk. This is book number 10 in the Zachary Goldman series. It can be read as a standalone, so you don't have to have read the rest of the series. You can actually get book 1, She Wore Mourning, for free today as well, so feel free to check that one out. My blog posts lists the buy addresses for She Was at Risk, She Wore Mourning, and a number of other books that I've gathered together that should all be free today as well. So we are having some problems with the Amazon store though. So if you want She Was at Risk on Kindle and you go to the Kindle store and it's showing at 99 cents instead of free, you can instead download the Mobi version, which is the Kindle version, off of my book funnel link, which I will list below. So you can get it on Kindle, even if Amazon is not caught up and offering it for free today. I'm not sure when they'll catch up and fix the price on that, but you can still get it through my book funnel link instead. And I thought I would do a short reading from She Was at Risk. I previously have read from chapter 1. Today I'm going to read from chapter 3. And just to give you a little setup, Zachary is meeting with Gordon, who's the partner of his ex-wife Bridget. And Bridget, as you may know, is expecting twins. Alrighty. Zachary leaned back against his seat. Then what did Gordon want? Gordon pushed his plate away again. The genetics of Huntington's disease are such that a child can only get Huntington's if one of her parents has it. Zachary considered this. His knowledge of genetics was pretty thin, but he remembered some from high school biology. But it could be that the parent is just a carrier, right? He suggested, because everyone has 2 copies of each gene. In the case of Huntington's disease, you can't just be a carrier. You have to have it to give it to a child. Maybe you haven't started having symptoms yet, but it's there, and typically it starts to develop between the ages of 40 and 50, which meant that Gordon could develop it at any time. Things suddenly became more clear. Gordon himself was going to get Huntington's disease sometime soon, or perhaps sometime in the next couple of decades. But he would get it, and he wanted Zachary to track someone down for him, an absent parent, a sibling, an old sweetheart, maybe a child he'd never been involved with. Zachary pulled out his notebook and laid it on the table. Okay, so who are you looking for? Who am I looking for? Gordon repeated. Well, I don't know that, do I? Zachary stared at him, frowning. What do you mean? I want to know who the father of the babies is. It was the second shock of the meeting. Zachary stared at him. Who the father of the twins was? Did he think that Bridget had ended up having an affair with Zachary? That the babies might be Zachary's? Or did he have someone else in mind? He swallowed and shook his head. I'm a little lost. Who the father is? It's not you? I just had myself tested for the Huntington disease gene. I don't have it. Oh. I didn't think that I did. It would have to be in my family in the recent past, and I don't have any relatives who have had dementia or Parkinson's or anything else that Huntington's might have been mistaken for. Does it have to come from the father? No, it could come from Bridget, but we have the same problem there. There's no hint of Huntington's disease in her family, no sign at all. Zachary worked through the combinations and options, his brain whirling away. So if it didn't come from you or Bridget, then it came from somewhere else. Obviously, Bridget is the mother, since she's the one who's pregnant. Gordon raised his finger, shaking his head. Remember, she probably didn't get pregnant naturally. It was frozen eggs, and that means it could have been someone else's eggs. True, right. The clinic might have mixed something up, a vial mislabeled or misfiled. It might not have been her eggs or my sperm. It might be someone else's fertilized embryos. Zachary nodded. But they must be able to test for that. If they're doing a DNA test for Huntington's, then they must be able to test for parentage at the same time. Gordon was nodding. Except that Bridget is against it, and the doctors seem to have some sort of ethical dilemma, or maybe it's legal. They just don't want to get sued. Bridget says it shouldn't matter who they got Huntington's gene from. We should be making a decision based on the risk factors that we know, not on who the biological parents are. Alarm bells were going off in Zachary's head. Bridget said it didn't matter who the parents were? Bridget was the one who had said she wondered if there was something wrong with the babies and had wanted to terminate before they'd even proven it. Do you think she had an affair? Gordon cleared his throat. He poked at the food still on his plate, but didn't eat anything else. He sighed. What else am I to think? Her reactions and explanations up until now have been improbable. She had IVF, so the babies should be implanted embryos. But the other possibility is the embryos didn't take, but she became pregnant naturally by me or someone else. She couldn't get pregnant naturally, could she, after the cancer treatment? I've dug into that a little. She was told she probably wouldn't be able to. That's why she froze her eggs in the first place. Zachary nodded. He remembered that part very clearly. How much the doctor had to argue to convince her to at least prepare for the possibility that she might change her mind in the future. How she had just glared at the doctor and at Zachary and had said there was no way. But in the end, she had agreed. But I guess it wasn't a foregone conclusion that she would become sterile. There was still a slim chance that she would have viable eggs left in the other ovary after treatments. Slim, but not impossible. Okay, so you want me to investigate whether she had an affair? Or whether she still is having one, Gordon said, his words painfully slow and precise. I have to wonder, and maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe it makes no difference to anything. But I'm a man who likes to have all the facts before he makes a decision. Zachary nodded. He knew it was not a good idea. He should have told Gordon right from the start that he couldn't meet, that he couldn't have anything to do with Gordon or Bridget. And now he needed to say that he couldn't possibly investigate Bridget. It was a conflict of interest or something like that. It wasn't a good idea for him to be following her around, seeing where she went, who she talked to, who she might be meeting on the sly. His heart raced just thinking about it, and not the pounding heart he often felt from anxiety and the inherent risks of doing surveillance and possibly being caught. His racing heart was from excitement and anticipation. His brain was being flooded with all those feel-good neurotransmitters. He was going to be able to see her again, to follow her, to watch her covertly, and it was okay, because he wasn't doing it for himself. He wasn't doing it for his own kicks, because his OCD brain told him that he needed to follow her and know where she was at all times. It would be for Gordon and for the babies. Okay, so there you are. Pick it up for free today, either at one of the retailers or directly from me. I will post links below. And check out my blog for some other books that you may want to pick up today free as well. Talk to you next week.